My name is Ethan Carter, and the day my parents told me I was getting nothing was the same day my life quietly began to change in a way none of us saw coming. It didn't start with shouting. It didn't start with anger. It started with silence. The kind of silence that sits between people who are technically family, but don't feel like it anymore. I was sitting at the dining table in my parents' house that afternoon, the same table I had grown up eating at. Same polished wood, same chairs, same sunlight coming through the window. But everything felt different. Cold. Distant. Like I was sitting in someone else's home, waiting for a decision that had already been made. My father, Richard Carter, sat across from me, his fingers lightly tapping the table like he always did when he was about to say something important. My mother, Helen Carter, sat beside him, her posture perfect, her expression calm, almost rehearsed. That should have been my first warning, because my mother never looked that composed unless she had already decided how the conversation was going to end. "Ethan," my father finally said, without looking directly at me, "we need to talk about something important." I leaned back slightly in my chair, trying to stay relaxed, even though something in my chest had already started tightening. "What's going on?" He exchanged a quick glance with my mother. "Just a second." But I caught it, that silent agreement, that moment where two people confirm they're about to do something together. "We finalized our decision about the estate," my mother said softly, and there it was, that word. Estate. In our family, that word always meant one thing. My grandmother. Margaret Carter. I swallowed slowly, trying to keep my voice steady. "Okay. What decision?" My father finally looked at me then. His expression wasn't angry. It wasn't emotional. It was worse. It was empty. "We've decided everything will go to Claire." For a second, I didn't react because my brain didn't process it. It just stopped. Then I let out a small laugh. Not because it was funny, because it felt unreal. "You're serious?" Neither of them smiled. Neither of them corrected me. And that's when it hit. They weren't joking. My father leaned back slightly in his chair. "You've made certain choices in your life, Ethan." There it was, that tone, the same one I had heard my entire life, not loud. Not aggressive. Disappointed. I felt something shift inside me. Not anger. Not yet. Something quieter. Something heavier. "So that's it?" I asked. "I get nothing?" My mother folded her hands on the table, her voice calm, almost gentle. "It's not about punishment," she said. "It's about responsibility." Responsibility? I almost smiled at that because I knew what she meant. She didn't trust me. Not with money. Not with decisions. Not with anything that mattered. My sister, Claire Carter. She was everything my parents wanted. Perfect grades. Law school. Corporate job. Married into a wealthy family. She followed the path exactly as it was laid out for her and me. I stepped off it. I started my own business. It failed. Then I tried again. Failed again, but I kept going, and to my parents, that made me unreliable. "You're unstable," my father said plainly. That word landed harder than anything else. Unstable. Like I was a risk, like I was a mistake waiting to happen. I looked at both of them, really looked this time. And for the first time in my life, I didn't see my parents. I saw two people who had already decided who I was and never planned to change their minds. I took a slow breath. Did Grandma agree with this? Another glance between them. Too quick. Too controlled. She trusted us to make the right decision. My mother said that wasn't an answer. That was a deflection, and I noticed it, but I didn't push because something inside me had already started shutting down. I nodded slowly. Right. There was a long pause after that. The kind where someone expects you to argue. To react. To fight, but I didn't, because suddenly I didn't feel like fighting anymore. I stood up from the table. My chair made a soft, scraping sound against the floor. My mother looked slightly surprised. "You're not going to say anything?" I shook my head. "No," I said quietly. "I think you've said enough." And just like that, I walked out. No yelling. No drama. No second chances. Just silence. I don't remember the drive after that. I just remember sitting in my car outside a grocery store, staring at my phone. $20-3. That was all I had. No backup. No support. No safety net. Just me. For a moment, I let myself believe them. Maybe they were right. Maybe I really had messed everything up. Maybe I wasn't someone worth trusting. That's the dangerous thing about people who doubt you long enough. You start to doubt yourself. My head dropped forward, resting against the steering wheel, and for a few seconds, I just sat there, breathing, trying to hold everything together. Then my phone buzzed. I almost ignored it. I didn't have the energy to talk to anyone, but something made me pick it up. No number. I hesitated, then answered, "Hello? Is this Ethan Carter?" The voice was calm, professional. "Yeah." "Who's this?" "My name is Daniel Reeves. I'm calling from Reeves and Holloway Law Firm." I sat up slightly. "A lawyer? Why would a lawyer be calling me?" "I'm reaching out. Regarding your grandmother, Margaret Carter." My heart skipped. "What about her?" There was a pause, not long, but long enough to feel important. "She left specific instructions for you." Everything inside me went still. "That doesn't make sense," I said quickly. "My parents handled everything." "Not everything," he replied calmly. I frowned. "What do you mean?" "Your grandmother created a separate legal arrangement, one that was not disclosed to your parents." Now I was fully awake, fully alert. "What kind of arrangement?" Another pause, and then, "She left you an inheritance totaling approximately $2.5 million. Double quotes. Silence. Real silence. The kind where your brain just stops working." I stared straight ahead, not seeing anything, not thinking anything, just frozen. Then I let out a small laugh, because it didn't feel real. "That's not possible." "It is," he said, calm, certain, "and there are conditions attached." That snapped me back. "What kind of conditions?" "You were not to be informed until after your parents made their final estate decision." I felt my grip tighten. "Around the phone. Wait. What?" she anticipated. "Certain outcomes," he added. And suddenly, everything made sense. The way my parents spoke, the way they avoided certain questions. The confidence in their decision. Grandma knew. She knew exactly what they were going to do. And she wanted me to see it. Not hear about it, not be protected from it. But feel it. Experience it, understand it, because only then would I truly know where I stood. I leaned back in my seat slowly. A strange feeling spread through my chest. Not anger, not sadness, something else. Clarity. The lawyer's voice pulled me back. "Mr. Carter, can you come into the office tomorrow morning?" "Yes," I said immediately. "There are documents you need to review." "And one more thing." "What?" "Your grandmother didn't just leave you money." I swallowed. "What else?" "She left you control." And just like that, everything changed. I didn't sleep that night. Not even for a minute. Every time I closed my eyes, the same thoughts kept circling back. My parents sitting across from me, telling me I wasn't worth trusting. My grandmother's voice in my memory, calm and certain. And that one sentence from the lawyer echoing louder than everything else. "She left you control." I must have replayed that line 100 times. Control of what? Control over who? And most importantly, why me? By the time morning came, I was already dressed and sitting in my car again. Same car, same worn-out seat, same cracked dashboard, but I wasn't the same person anymore. There was something different in the way I held the steering wheel. Something. Steady. Not confidence. Not yet. But direction. The law office was downtown, in one of those tall glass buildings that always make you feel slightly out of place the moment you walk in. Everything was clean, quiet, controlled, the kind of place where decisions are made without emotion. I stepped inside and gave my name at the front desk. Within a minute, I was being led down a long hallway into a private office. Daniel Reeves stood. Up as I entered, he looked exactly how you'd expect a lawyer to look. Mid-40s, sharp suit, calm eyes, the kind of expression that doesn't give anything away. "Mr. Carter," he said, extending his hand. "Ethan," I replied, shaking it. "Please have a seat." I sat down slowly, my eyes already scanning the desk. There was a thick folder sitting right in front of him. I didn't need to ask what it was. "That's everything?" I asked. He nodded. Everything your grandmother prepared. Something about the way he said that made it clear. This wasn't simple. This wasn't just money being passed down. This was something planned. Carefully. Deliberately. He opened the folder and turned it toward me. Before we begin, he said, there are a few things you should understand. I leaned forward slightly. Okay, your grandmother was very thorough, he continued. She anticipated resistance. She anticipated disputes, and she structured everything to prevent them. I let out a slow breath. That sounds like her. He gave a small nod. She also anticipated your parents' decision. There it was again, that confirmation. Not a guess, not a possibility. She knew. I looked down at the documents. So what exactly did she set up? Daniel slid the first page closer to me. Your inheritance is held in a private trust, fully protected. No external party can access it, challenge it, or redirect it. I scanned the page quickly. Legal language. Complex terms, but the meaning was clear. This wasn't something my parents could touch at all. And the control part? I asked. He paused for a moment before answering. That's where things become more interesting. I looked up at him. Go on. There's a secondary structure tied to the remaining family estate. My chest tightened slightly. Meaning? Meaning your grandmother didn't leave everything to your parents' discretion. I felt something shift again. Then who decides? He looked directly at me. You do, for a second. I just stared at him. Explain that. He turned. Another page. Approximately 40% of the remaining estate is now under a decision-based structure. That means any major financial movement, sale, or redistribution requires your approval. I blinked. 40%. Yes, that's not small. No, he said calmly. It's not. I leaned back slowly. This wasn't just about me being protected. This was influence. Real. Influence. My parents thought they had full control. They thought they made the final decision, but they didn't. Not anymore. Why would she do that? I asked quietly. Daniel didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached into the folder and pulled out a smaller envelope. This, he said, placing it in front of me, might answer that. My hands felt slightly heavier as I picked it up. It was sealed. Simple. No markings. But I already knew who it was from. I opened it carefully. Inside was a single handwritten letter. My grandmother's handwriting. I hadn't seen it in months, but I recognized it instantly. I unfolded the paper slowly and started reading. Ethan, if you're reading this, it means things happened exactly the way I expected them to. I wish I could say I'm surprised. But I'm not. Your parents have always valued certainty over character, stability over growth, and you, my dear, have always been someone who grows. That scared them. It still does. I know they made you feel like you were less, like your path was wrong, like your failures defined you. They don't. Your strength was never in avoiding failure. It was in continuing after it. That is something no amount of money can teach. I didn't leave you this inheritance to save you. I left it to free you, and I gave you control. Because I trust your judgment more than theirs. Not because you're perfect, but because you've lived without safety. People who've had everything handed to them rarely understand its value. You do. Use this wisely, not for revenge, but for balance. And remember something very important, Ethan. The truth always reveals itself. I just made sure you would see it clearly. With love, Grandma. I didn't realize I had stopped breathing until I reached the end. My hands were slightly shaking, not from shock, from something deeper. Understanding. She saw me. Not the version my parents talked about, not the version the world judged. The real me. And for the first time in a long time, I felt respected. I folded the letter carefully and placed it back in the envelope. Daniel watched me quietly. She believed in you, he said. I nodded slowly. I know. There was a moment of silence after that. Not uncomfortable. Just heavy. So, what happens now? I asked. He leaned back slightly. Now, your parents are informed. I looked up quickly. When? Later today? My stomach tightened slightly, and then they respond. I let out a small breath. That should be interesting. He gave a faint, almost knowing smile. Yes, I believe it will be. The call came that evening. I was back in my apartment, sitting on the edge of my bed, staring at nothing again. But this time, it wasn't emptiness. It was anticipation. My phone lit up. Dad. I looked at the screen for a few seconds before answering. Hello? There was no immediate response, just breathing. Then finally, Ethan, is this true? His voice sounded different. Not cold. Not controlled. Uncertain. Double quotes. Yes. I said calmly. Another pause, longer this time. We just got off the phone with the lawyer, he said. I figured. What is this? My mother's voice came in suddenly. From the background. What did she do? I didn't react because I already knew. They weren't asking for answers. They were trying to understand how they lost control. She made her own decisions, I said. That's not what this is about. My father replied quickly. Then what is it about? Silence. That same silence again, but this time, it felt different. Before, it felt like I was the one being judged. It now, they were the ones trying to find their footing. Why didn't you tell us? My mother asked. I almost smiled because I didn't know. Another silence. And in that silence, I could feel it. The shift, the balance changing. They spent years holding power over me, financially, emotionally, every decision, every judgment. But now, for the first time, they weren't in control anymore, and they knew it. Ethan, my father, said slowly, we need to talk about this in person. I leaned back slightly. Do we? Yes. His tone wasn't commanding anymore, it was careful, measured, almost respectful. That was new. All right, I said, we'll talk. And as the call ended, I sat there in the quiet, holding my grandmother's letter in my hand, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I was chasing something. I felt like I was finally standing still on solid ground. I didn't rush the meeting. That was the first change. The old me would have dropped everything. Shown up early, tried to prepare answers for questions I wasn't even sure they'd ask. I would have walked in already defending myself, but not. This time I let them wait, not out of spite. But because for once I wasn't the one trying to prove something, I chose a quiet cafe on the edge of downtown. Neutral ground, no history. No emotional advantage for anyone. When I walked in, they were already there. Of course they were. My father. Richard Carter sat upright like always, hands folded neatly on the table, his posture still carrying that same quiet authority he'd held my entire life. But there was something different in his eyes now. Uncertainty. My mother, Elaine Carter, looked less composed. Her fingers tapped lightly against her cup, a habit she had when things didn't go her way. Her eyes found me immediately, sharp, searching, and then there was Claire. My sister. She sat beside them, her expression unreadable at first glance. Claire had always been the calm one, the balanced one, the one who never took sides. At least, that's what I used to believe. I walked over slowly and took the empty chair across from them. No hugs. No greetings. Just silence. It stretched for a few seconds before my father finally spoke. You look well, he said. I am, I replied. Another pause. They weren't used to this version of me. No nervousness. No need for approval. Just calm. We spoke with Daniel Reeves, my father continued. He explained the structure your grandmother put in place. I figured he would. My mother leaned forward slightly. What we don't understand, she said, her voice tight, is why she would give you that kind of authority. There it was. Not concern. Not curiosity. Control. Always control. I looked at her for a moment before answering. She explained it in a letter. A letter? Claire spoke for the first time, her tone softer. What did it say? I turned slightly toward her, that she trusted my judgment. The words landed exactly how I expected them to. My mother's lips pressed into a thin line. My father's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. And Claire looked down. She always had a soft spot for you, my mother said quickly. I shook my head slightly. No, she had clarity. That stung. I could see it, because it wasn't just disagreement anymore. It was truth. And they knew it. Ethan, my father said, leaning forward now, his tone more controlled, this situation is Complicated. Is it? I asked calmly. Yes, he replied. Because decisions regarding the estate affect all of us. And she knew that, I said. Then why structure it this way? My mother pressed. I held her gaze. Maybe because she didn't trust how those decisions would be made without oversight. Silence. Heavy silence. The kind that presses into your chest. My father exhaled slowly. Adjusting his posture. This isn't about trust, he said. It's about practicality. You don't have experience managing assets at this level. There it was. The familiar angle. Doubt my capability. Reduce my position. Bring me back down to where they were. Comfortable, but it didn't land the same anymore. I don't need to manage everything, I said. I just need to approve major decisions. That still requires understanding, he replied. I'll learn. My mother let out a short, almost incredulous breath. This isn't something you just learn on the fly, Ethan. I tilted my head slightly. And yet? You expect me to trust decisions I'm not part of? That stopped her, not completely, but enough. Because again, it wasn't an argument. It was logic. Claire shifted slightly in her seat. I think what Mom is trying to say, she began carefully, is that this situation puts a lot of pressure on you. I looked at her. She hesitated. For someone who wasn't involved before, yes. I leaned back slightly. I was involved, I said. Just not included. That landed harder than anything else so far because it wasn't just about money anymore. It was about years of being overlooked. Dismissed. Decided for. My father cleared his throat. Let's focus on solutions, he said. We need a structure that works for everyone. I already have one, I replied. He paused. What do you mean? I mean, I'm not here to take over anything, I said. I'm here to make sure decisions are balanced. And who defines balance? My mother asked sharply. I do. Silence. Again. But this time, it wasn't confusion. It was realization. They were starting to understand that this wasn't a temporary shift. This wasn't something they could talk me out of. This was permanent. Claire looked between us, her expression more tense now. There has to be some middle ground, she said. There is, I replied. Transparency. My father frowned slightly. We've always been transparent. I almost laughed, but I didn't. No, I said quietly. You've been selective. That one hit. Hard. Because it wasn't just about the estate anymore. It was about everything. All the conversations I wasn't part of. All the decisions made without me. All the times I was told what was happening. Instead of being asked. My mother shook her head. This is turning into something it doesn't need to be. No, I said. It's finally becoming what it should have been. Another silence, longer this time. Claire finally spoke again. Her voice quieter. Ethan, what do you want? That question lingered. Because for the first time, someone was actually asking, not assuming, not deciding. Just asking. I looked at her for a moment before answering. I want accountability. My father's expression hardened slightly. And if we don't agree with your decisions, I met his gaze, then we discuss them. And if we still don't agree? I didn't look away, then nothing moves forward. That was it. The line. Clear. Unmovable. Mother leaned back, clearly frustrated now. This is ridiculous. No, I said calmly. This is structure. Claire rubbed her hands together slightly, her nerves showing now. This isn't going to work long term, she said. It will, I replied. If everyone's honest. And that's when something shifted, not in my parents. And Claire, she went quiet. Too quiet. Her eyes dropped to the table, her fingers tightening slightly. I noticed it immediately because it didn't match her earlier tone. There was something else there. Something she wasn't saying. Claire, I said gently. What is it? She didn't respond right away. My mother spoke instead. There's nothing, Mom. Claire interrupted softly. That alone was enough to change the air in the room, because Claire never interrupted. Ever. She took a slow breath before looking up at me. There's something you should know. My father's expression shifted instantly. Claire, I didn't think it mattered before. She continued, her voice steady but quiet. But now, it does? My chest tightened slightly. What is it? She hesitated. Just for a second. Then. She said it. Grandma changed the will twice. Silence. Complete silence. I felt my heartbeat slow. Not speed up. Slow down. Because something about that sentence meant everything I thought I understood was only part of the truth. What do you mean? I asked quietly. Claire swallowed slightly. I mean, the first version didn't include you at all. My fingers tightened slightly on the edge of the table. And the second? She looked directly at me now. The second version was made after something happened. The room felt smaller, heated. What happened? I asked this time. She didn't answer right away. She glanced at our parents. And that glance told me everything I needed to know, whatever this was. They already knew, and they didn't want me to. Claire turned back to me, her voice barely above a whisper now. The truth didn't come out by accident, Ethan. It was exposed. And just like that, everything shifted again, because this wasn't just about control anymore, or trust, or inheritance. This was about something hidden, something buried, and now it was starting to surface. The air didn't just feel heavy anymore. It felt charged, like something invisible had been pulled into the room, something none of us could ignore now. I didn't look at my parents. Not yet. My eyes stayed locked on Claire. Exposed. How? I asked quietly. My voice didn't shake, but something inside me had already started bracing. Claire hesitated, and that hesitation said more than words ever could. She wasn't unsure of the truth. She was unsure of the consequences. Claire, I said again, firmer this time. My father exhaled sharply. That's enough, he said. This isn't necessary. I turned to him slowly. Not necessary? I repeated. You think I'm sitting here making decisions about something I don't fully understand, and the truth isn't necessary? His jaw tightened. This isn't the time or place. I held his gaze. Then when was it supposed to be? Silence, that same silence. But now it wasn't just uncomfortable. It was guilty. I looked back at Claire. Tell me. She closed her eyes for a brief second, then opened them again, and when she spoke, everything changed. Grandma found out about the transfer. My mind caught on that word instantly. Transfer? I asked. Claire nodded slowly. There was money moved out of her personal accounts about a year before she passed. I frowned. That doesn't make sense. She handled everything herself. I know, Claire said. That's why she started looking into it. I felt something cold settle in my chest, and Claire swallowed, and she found authorization forms. I leaned forward slightly. Signed by who? She didn't answer. She didn't need to, because at that exact moment, my mother looked away, and my father didn't. He held my gaze, and in his eyes, for the first time in my life, I didn't see authority. I saw calculation. Say it, I said quietly. Claire's voice barely held steady. Dad signed them. The words didn't explode. They didn't crash. They landed. Slow. Heavy. Permanent. I sat back in my chair, my mind moving faster than my expression showed. How much? I asked. My voice was calm. Too calm. Claire hesitated again. Enough to matter, she said. That's not an answer. She looked at me, and this time she didn't soften it. Almost a third of her liquid assets. Silence. No one moved. No one spoke, because there was nothing to soften that, nothing to explain it. Away, I finally turned my full attention to my father. He didn't look away. Of course he didn't. Tell me I'm misunderstanding, I said. He took a slow breath. It wasn't theft. I let out a quiet, almost disbelieving exhale. Then what was it? Reallocation. He replied. I almost laughed, but there was no humor in it. You moved her money without telling her. It was an investment decision, using her accounts. For the family's benefit. I leaned forward slightly, my eyes narrowing, without her knowledge. She trusted me. No, I said sharply. She didn't. That hit? I saw it land. Because if she had trusted him, she wouldn't have investigated. She wouldn't have changed the will. She wouldn't have written me that letter. My mother finally spoke, her voice tight. You're twisting this. I turned to her. Am I? Yes, she said quickly. Your father was trying to protect the estate by hiding transactions? It wasn't hidden. She found it herself. I cut in. That ended that argument immediately. Claire looked between us. Her face pale now. She confronted him, she said quietly. I looked at her again. What happened? Claire's hands tightened together. They had an argument, a big one. I've never seen her that angry before. My chest tightened slightly. And after that? She called her lawyer the next day. Daniel Reeves. Of course. She rewrote everything, Claire continued. The trust, the control structure, all of it. I nodded slowly. Now it made sense, not just the decision. The intention behind it. This wasn't random. This wasn't favoritism. This was correction. I looked back at my father. So all of this is because she stopped trusting you. His expression hardened again. But it wasn't the same kind of control as before. It was defensive now. You're making it sound worse. Then it is? Worse? I repeated quietly. You moved her money behind her back. For the family, you don't get to hide behind that. Silence. My mother shook her head again. You don't understand how these things work. I looked at her, steady. No, I said. I understand exactly how this works. Neither of them spoke, because there wasn't anything left to say. The truth had already done its job. Claire's voice came again. Softer now. That's why she changed it, Ethan. I nodded once. I know. And that's why she gave you control? She added. I looked down at the table for a moment, then back up. Not at my parents. At her. She didn't give me control, I said quietly. She gave me responsibility. There was a difference, and now I felt it. Fully. I turned back to my father. So let's be clear, I said. From this point forward, nothing moves without full transparency. He didn't argue this time, didn't deflect, didn't reframe it. He just sat there because the power dynamic had already shifted. Completely. My mother looked frustrated, but even she didn't push back the same way anymore, because now it wasn't just about authority. It was about accountability. Claire exhaled slowly, like she'd been holding her breath for too long. I didn't want it to come out like this. She said, It didn't come out, I replied. It was already there. Another silence, but this one felt different. Lighter. Not because things were better, but because they were finally honest. I reached into my jacket and pulled out the envelope. My grandmother's letter. I placed it on the table. She knew, I said. No one questioned it. No one denied it. Because now they all understood the same thing I did. This wasn't just an inheritance. This was her final decision, her final correction, her final truth. I stood up slowly. I'll review everything, I said. Every document, every transaction. My father nodded once. No resistance. Good, he said quietly. That alone told me everything had changed. I looked at my mother. Then at Claire. And finally back at him. This isn't about control anymore, I said. It never was. And with that, I turned and walked away. Not rushed. Not emotional. Just steady, because for the first time in my life, I wasn't walking away from something. I was walking forward, and behind me, for the first time, they weren't calling me back. I didn't go home after that meeting, not right away. I drove for a while. No destination, no music, just the quiet hum of the engine and the steady rhythm of my own thoughts, because everything had changed. Not suddenly. Not dramatically. But completely. The truth has a way of doing that. It doesn't need noise. It doesn't need force. It just settles. And once it does, nothing fits the same way again. By the time I finally parked outside my apartment, I wasn't angry. That was the surprising part. I should have been. I had every reason to be, but what I felt instead was something colder. Clearer. Understanding. Not forgiveness. Not yet, but clarity, and that clarity made one thing very simple. I knew exactly what I had to do next. The next few days were quiet. On the surface. No calls from my parents. No messages trying to explain things. No pressure. But underneath that silence, things were moving. I met with Daniel Reeves again. Twice. We went through everything. Every document. Every transfer. Every decision tied to the estate. And the deeper I looked, the more precise my grandmother's plan revealed itself to be. She hadn't just reacted. She had calculated. Every clause, every condition, every Safeguard. It wasn't built out of anger. It was built out of certainty. And by the time we were done reviewing it all, I understood something important. She hadn't just protected me. She had positioned me. That realization didn't inflate my ego. It grounded me, because this wasn't about winning. It was about responsibility. And responsibility requires action. A week later, I called them. All of them. Same place. Same table. But this time, everything felt different. Before I even walked in, they were already seated again, but the energy had shifted. No tension. No impatience. Just quiet anticipation. Claire gave me a small, cautious look. My mother sat straighter than usual, like she was preparing for something, and my father, he watched me carefully, not with authority. With awareness. I sat down. For a moment, no one spoke. Then I did. I've reviewed everything. Double quote, simple. Direct. My father nodded once. And? I folded my hands lightly on the table. There won't be any legal action. That landed first. My mother exhaled softly, almost relieved. Claire's shoulders dropped slightly, but my father, he didn't react, because he knew that wasn't the real decision. I continued. But there will be changes. Now I had their full attention. From this point forward, I said, every financial decision tied to the estate will be documented, reviewed, and approved transparently. My father nodded slowly. Understood. No exceptions, I added. Agreed. That word. Agreed. I had never heard him say that to me before. Not like that. Not without resistance. I let a second pass before continuing. The funds that were transferred? I paused slightly, choosing my words carefully. Will be accounted for. My mother shifted slightly. What does that mean exactly? It means we trace where they went, I said. And we evaluate the outcome? And if the investments were beneficial? She asked. Then they stay, I replied calmly. And if they weren't? I held her gaze. Then we correct them. Silence, but not uncomfortable. Just accepted. Because now everything had a structure. Claire leaned forward slightly. And you're leading all of this? I shook my head. No. That caught them off guard. We are. I clarified. All three of them looked at me now. Confused. Cautious. Listening. Double quotes. This doesn't work if it's one person controlling everything, I said. That's what created the problem in the first place. My father's expression shifted slightly, not defensive, reflective. So what are you proposing? He asked. I leaned back slightly. A system. That word mattered. Not authority, not power. A system. We meet regularly. We review everything together. Major decisions require full agreement. And if we disagree? My mother asked. Then we don't move forward, I said. She frowned slightly. That could stall things. It could, I admitted, but it also prevents mistakes. Claire nodded slowly. That's actually fair. My father didn't speak right away. He was thinking. Measuring. And then finally, he nodded. All right. Just like that. No argument. No pushback. Because deep down, he knew this wasn't something he could control anymore, and more importantly, it wasn't something he should. There was one last thing, the most important thing. I reached into my jacket again and pulled out my grandmother's letter. I placed it on the table between us. She didn't do this to divide us, I said quietly. They all looked at it. None of them touched it. She did it because something was already broken. No one denied that. Because they couldn't. I looked at my father directly. For what it's worth, I believe you thought you were doing the right thing. That surprised him. I could see it. Because he expected anger. Blame. Resentment. But that's not what I gave him. I gave him truth without attack. But you were wrong, I added. That part mattered too, and this time he didn't defend himself. Didn't justify it. He just nodded. I know, he said quietly. That was it. No long explanation. No excuses. Just acknowledgement, and strangely, that was enough. Not to fix everything. But to start something real. We didn't hug when the meeting ended. We didn't suddenly become a perfect family. That's not how this works. Some things take time, some things take distance, and some things never go back to what they were. But as I walked out of that cafe, I realized something important. I didn't need things to go back, because forward was better. That night I sat alone in my apartment again. Same space, same silence, but it didn't feel empty anymore. I took out the letter one last time and read it again. Slowly, carefully, and this time I understood every word, not just what she wrote, but why she wrote it. She didn't give me power. She gave me perspective. She didn't protect me from my family. She forced my family to face the truth, and in doing that, she gave all of us a chance to become something better. I folded the letter and placed it back in the envelope. Then I set it on the table, not hidden, not locked away, just there, a reminder of truth, of responsibility, of balance. And as I leaned back in my chair, staring at the quiet room around me, one thought settled in my mind. Clear, uncheckable, for the first time in my life. I wasn't trying to earn my place. I had already claimed it.